Hi, everyone, and welcome to Bioinformatics webinar, Elevating Experiences, Trends and Conferences and Exhibit Strategies in the Life Sciences. I'm Keely Truhl, Senior Marketing Manager for Science and Medicine Group. And before we get started, I wanted to cover a few housekeeping items. First, if you're experiencing any issues throughout the broadcast, please feel free to put those in the chat and I'll work to help you fix them. Second, this presentation will be available on demand after the webinar has concluded. An email will be sent to you with information on how you can access that. And finally, we will be taking time to answer questions at the end of the presentation, but please feel free to go ahead and submit those in your questions panel at any time throughout the presentation. We're going to get to as many of those as we can. So leading us in today's discussion is Andy Smiley. Andy is a Senior Project Manager, Science Advisor at Bioinformatics. Andy, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Keely. I appreciate it. And thank you all for joining us for this exciting report on conferences and exhibit hall strategy. I'm just going to dive right in because we have a lot of information to give you today, and we're just touching on the main points of this report, but I think you'll find a lot of these results will be quite exciting and quite fun to go through. So diving right in, I wanted to give you a quick overview of what this study was all about. So Bioinformatics, which is a part of Science and Medicine Group, conducted marketing research to understand the beliefs and attitudes of scientists towards scientific conferences. We wanted to map out trends in scientific conferences with, understand preferred sizes and number of conferences attended per year. We wanted to understand demographic trends in conferences and the parameters of an ideal conference. We wanted to determine the professional and logistical factors that influence the selection of a scientific conference. We wanted to understand scientists' strategies and expectations when visiting exhibit halls. And we use the 2023 experiences to try and understand what their expectations will be in 2024. And finally, we wanted to understand what attracts scientists to different exhibit booths. To address these objectives, we fielded a survey which contained about 45 questions, which included demographics, and took about 20 minutes for our respondents to complete. Our respondents, it was fielded to 363 members of the Science Advisory Board, and the Science Advisory Board is a segment of scientific community with a demonstrated willingness to participate in market research activities. These scientists, in order to qualify for this survey, must be in academia or industry. They must currently work in North America or Europe, and they must have attended an in-person scientific conference in 2023. As a reminder, the summary of the results right now is being presented in this webinar, but the full report is available on the Bioinformatics website and the SMG Knowledge Center. We're going to touch a little bit on demographics before we move on, just so that you can see where our respondents were coming from. As mentioned before, we recruited mainly in North America and Europe, with about an even split. About 61% of our respondents came from academia, which included university medical centers, research institutions, nonprofits, governments, hospitals, and the other 40% came from industry, which included biopharmaceutical or biotech companies, CROs, CMOs, or for-profit research institutions. We wanted to understand what the role of selection was in products. So we saw that 40% had some kind of budget authority, and another 40% could evaluate new products and had budget authority, and some 22% also evaluated new products but only were able to make recommendations. Principal job positions were principal investigator and lab manager, director, or supervisor. Finally, we also have split the population by the respondent population by age according to their generation. So we have about a third split of a third of baby boomer generation, a third coming from Gen X, and then a bit of a third being split between the Xennials and the Millennials. We also decided to gather some gender information with about 67% of our respondents being male and about 35% having more than 25 years or more in research. So touching on some key highlights, getting into the depths here. The first thing I'm going to show you is the table of contents from the actual report, so you know when you purchase this report what kind of details to expect. In this, I will call your attention right now beyond the executive summary to point number 4. So different sections of the report include scientific conferences and the attendee experience, trends in scientific conferences attendance. We also mapped out scientific conferences, their selection criteria. We wanted to also understand how attendees make the most of the conference, their attendance at the conferences. And finally, we also dove into how to maximize the exhibit hall experience. Finally, point 9, you'll see it says in-person conference attendee personas. And we'll dive into this one a little bit and give an example of what these are, but this is something slightly new for Science and Medicine Group and Bioinformatics to try out, and we're hoping that you'll enjoy this new technique. So, some top lines we have. Main point of the report, scientists indicate that in-person conferences are essential for professional development. Supporting this fact, it says that we found that 62% of respondents see in-person conferences as being highly important for the professional development. Aside from conferences being important also, we also polled them about their societies and their society memberships, and we found that 79% of respondents indicate that they are members of scientific societies, leading memberships being in AACR, ACS, ASCB, and ASM. Aside from these societies, there were over 118 unique mentions of different societies, which respondents indicated they were members. Many of these unique mentions were regional or where they were dedicated to a very specific scientific discipline. When it comes to selecting a scientific conference, respondents' top 3 cited factors for influencing conference attendance were travel cost, registration fee, and the city where the conference is to be held. When thinking about trends in conferences, we found that respondents mostly attended mid-sized in-person conferences, which is about 100 to 1,000 attendees. We also found when it comes to virtual conferences have been more popular in the past 3 years than the hybrid style conference, where it's there's some in-person elements and there's some online elements. Conference activities, we see that for approximately 1/3 of the respondents, the conference exhibit hall is used to gather information for consideration during the purchase decision process. Now, this is very, very important for instrumentation category because vendor exhibits are most important in helping respondents learning about or evaluating an instrumentation they plan to purchase for their lab. We're going to go dig into some of these findings here a little bit and start talking about some trends we saw in the conference attendance. So as mentioned at the previous section, that most respondents prefer mid-sized conferences. So if you look at the bar chart on the bottom, you see that the high 63% of respondents said they preferred a conference size of 100 to 1,000 attendees. We can see that attendance has dropped for in-person conferences since 2018, which is in the gray. The average number of conferences, though, has attended per year, which are the numbers here above the bar charts, has remained about statistically the same for most conference sizes. The average number of in-person conferences attended, regardless of size, in 2023 was about 3.4 on average. In 2018, that number was about 3.9 conferences per year. Thinking about virtual or hybrid conferences now, over the past 3 years, we have found that respondents have attended about 4 to 5 virtual conferences or 2 to 3 hybrid conferences on average. If you look to the right outside of this chart, though, it sees perceived advantages of virtual conferences, and we see that elimination of the travel cost remains the best advantage for virtual conferences. Digging into the conference attendees themselves here. So as mentioned before on the summary slide, we said that 79 respondents indicate they are members of scientific societies. Right here we have listed the top 11 societies and their trends, not just for 2024, but also what they were in 2018. So you can see there has been also 118 unique mentions for the 2024 report. Again, the multitude of societies cited by these respondents in this other category tended to have a regional focus, or they spoke to a very specific scientific discipline. Now, the increases and decreases in society memberships you see from 2018 to 2024, they speak kind of to the shifting research focuses of the respondents in those years. Also from the summary slide, now we see that travel costs, again, registration fees, and location are key logistical considerations. These top three factors, though, have not changed since 2018. We mentioned before that 62% of respondents see in-person conferences as highly important to their professional development here. Now, the perceptions indicate that virtual conferences in the middle columns there and the hybrid conferences on the far right do not offer the same level of engagement and opportunity for professional development, as we can see by the darkly shaded area, the differences in the darkly shaded areas. If you go down to the far left column for in-person conferences, we see that high importance on in-person conference attendance is seen across the generations, though. Going now into attendee needs and expectations when attending a scientific conference. We see on the left the disliked factors, the big dislikes, and we see on the right the likes from past conference attendance, attendance experience. So conference organizers here, looking at the left, should minimize conflicts between sessions, since too many conflicts between sessions is the #1 dislike in 2024. And they should try to maximize or provide more opportunities to network. So the most liked factor, 28%, saying they enjoyed the great networking opportunities that conferences provide, in-person conferences provide. Now, networking opportunities have usurped session speakers in popularity since 2018. Now, this next slide is quite unique. We see here on the left with the bubble chart, this is data actually pulled from our customer purchasing journey report from 2023 that was published this past December. It speaks to how vendor exhibits are important per specific specific product categories. You can see with the purple dots being the awareness and motivation stage. If you recall from the customer purchasing journey report, we had different stages. So if you see the purple, it's the awareness and motivation stage of the customer purchasing journey, whereas the green is the research and consideration stage. So vendor exhibits, you see here, are very important for instrumentation category from that report. Now on the right, with the bar chart here, you see it's the importance of vendor exhibits, again, with the same product categories, but this is from this year's report, this particular survey. So you see the key takeaway that vendor exhibits are important for instrumentation from this report aligns with the 2023 Life Sciences Customer Purchasing Journey report from this past December. So what did you dislike most about vendor exhibits when you go to visit them? Respondents disliked visiting a vendor booth with aggressive personnel or when no one was present. So as respondents are only going to vendor booths where they believe they need the vendor's products, not having adequate or any staffing means missing out on potential leads. Okay, now here's the addition at the end of the report. You will find this a different type of data storytelling. So we're talking about in-person conference attendee personas. So what are personas? A conference attendee persona is a representation of the different types of scientists you may find at an in-person conference. The data gathered and analyzed to create these personas focuses on their behaviors, their experiences, and the preferences for this when they're at scientific conferences. Now, the purpose of these personas is to help vendors and event organizers understand these scientists' needs, preferences, and pain points to improve the overall experience and potentially maximize the opportunities for interaction with the potential customers. Now, bioinformatics has created these personas by applying multiple segmentation filters. So we use location, employment sector, and generational data to compare how different segments are the same and how they are unique. The information included is based on what the most respondents within a particular segment answered. So because of the multiple filters, the total population for each persona is small, and it's not generalizable to the target population. So what do these look like? What are you going to see when you open the report? Here's one example. We have our academic Gen Xers. On the left, you see the kind of a Facebook-like profile for somebody, an academic Gen Xer from North America, and on the right, you'll see their counterpart in Europe. We listed out their location, possible job titles, their top choices for conferences in 2024. We gave you some hints and clues on how to entice them to a vendor booth. So on the bottom left there, you can see that the North American Gen Xer likes t-shirts, and the one on the right would like if you offer them a USB drive, they wouldn't turn it down. We also outlined some key differences in their personality types. So if you read under About Me on the left, they both, on the right, you see that they both enjoy conferences when they are well organized. However, the European Gen Xer also does not enjoy lengthy sessions. Please note that these personas, we did not include gender in the creation of these conference attendee personas. We grouped both male and female together when we were looking for key differences and similarities. You will get, in this report, you will get about 12 of these, as we created about 12 of these different personas for you to compare and contrast so that you're able to interact with these people and these personas when you attend as an exhibitor or as a conference organizer. Do we have any questions?
Great. Thank you so much, Andy. So as mentioned, we're going to go ahead and jump into question and answers at this time. So if you haven't already, if you have any questions, please go ahead and put those in the chat. If for whatever reason we don't get to any of the questions, we will be sure to follow up via email with you guys. I did want to mention, as you guys are putting your questions in the chat as we're waiting for those to come in, that a PDF of the slides from today's webinar can be found in the handouts section of your control panel. Please let us know if you have any issues downloading that.
And while people are putting their questions in the chat, here's also a few, you can see what our most recent titles are and which products are coming soon here on the pike. In March of 2024, we will have a digital marketing and advertising and life sciences report. And in April, you can expect to see a customer loyalty switching on library kits.
Great, thanks, Andy. And I will mention, for those of you who are interested in seeing what's coming down the pipeline, please follow Bioinformatics on LinkedIn. We do similar webinars for our other reports that are coming out as well, so you can kind of get a good glimpse into what's offered. So keep an eye on us on LinkedIn, and that's where you'll be able to access any registrations for any webinars that you might be interested in. So did want to call that out as well. Okay. So we don't have any questions coming in the chat at this time. Andy, I did want to mention to everyone, if you have follow-up questions, we log off the webinar and you think of something you want to ask us, you can email us at info@bioinfoinc.com. Thanks, it's right up there on the slide, but I'll pop that into the chat as well so that you can copy and paste that email if you want. I guess I'll ask one question for the audience. Andy, if they want access to this report, where can they find that? Where do they go to get that?
Well, you can find this report not just on the bioinformatics website under our marketed reports, but you can also find it at the Science and Medicine Group Knowledge Center. It'll be posted there as well.
Great. Thank you. All right, with that, then we'll go ahead and wrap up for the day. I'll keep this webinar line open for a few minutes, so anyone who wants to get a hold of our email address or download the slides from the handout section will have time to do so. But thank you guys so much for joining us, and I hope everyone has a great rest of their day.